began when I was in high school, really, when myself and a couple of other friends of mine were a part of a small study that happened in a particular neighborhood in Northfield, to kind of gauge how interested people were in compost, because the landfill for Rice County is reaching capacity. There's a need for constructing more landfill cells. And so at the Environmental Quality Commission, at the City Council, and in the environmental youth group that I was a part of, we were all talking about how do we limit the amount of waste that we put in the landfill. I feel like putting waste in a landfill is a sad way to use land, and particularly for organic waste, when that can be a resource for soil. And organic waste is complicated because when it goes to a landfill and gets broken down there, it becomes a harmful thing because it releases methane when it's not exposed to the proper amount of oxygen, and it doesn't get to decompose properly. So it's actually a contributor to climate change, a contributor to greenhouse gases that are warming the climate. And so it feels like a really important intervention point where not only can we be taking something that is harmful in one circumstance, it's actually beneficial when it's broken down properly. So that is kind of some of the impetus for why we started being a part of those conversations, and then got some motorcycles going by. And so then as we were talking with the city and talking with folks from DSI, the waste collector, it became clear that it wasn't necessarily going to happen on the timeline that we wanted it to. So particularly myself and Cliff Martin and a couple of other friends, kind of looked at each other and thought, maybe we can do this. Maybe this isn't so complicated and maybe we could do this. So then it was years of research, and years of talking to different small scale compost collectors in towns of a comparable size. We had a lot of support and connections made through the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, which is a really cool national organization that put together a whole report about community scale composting. So we were able to connect with folks there and ask all the questions of like, what kind of, receptacle do you use? And how much time does this take? And what kind of bags? And just, all those questions, we had people that we could ask those to. So then it was, a couple of years of research, and then 3 years ago, we started the business. Our subscribers pay us money to pick up their compost. So that's an important part of this, is that we do make money as a business, and we get to pay ourselves as employees. And so that is part of what makes us sustainable. I think there is also we get a lot of really nice appreciation from the city. So that definitely keeps us going as well. People waving hello to us when we're picking up their stinky compost is very heartening and good. So those are some of the things that sustain us. I feel like there's a lot of really important community connections that help us to stay operating. We have connections to a mechanic who is able to service our vehicles. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that sustain us, I would say.
And I would even say like connections, not that we have with people, but like that neighbors have with each other. And then one person starts and they think it's great, and then they talk to their neighbors and their friends. And that's how how we get a lot of new subscribers. Was introduced to Helen and we became friends, and then I subscribed. I was currently going to St. Olaf, and I subscribed my off-campus house to composting, and was kind of like not really sure how it worked, or like, what do you guys do in the winter? Everything's frozen. But the more that I learned about it, the more that I really liked it. And I grew up in Arizona, and I hadn't really heard much of composting until I came to Northfield, and they had different bins at St. Olaf, and then meeting Helen, Cliff, and Grace now, who's part of the business, and kind of talking to them about what it is and how much it helps, just got me really interested. And then there was a point where I could become a part, or like become a worker and help out, and so I jumped on that.
I think it just felt like this is an important thing that should happen, and diverting waste from the landfill, like you said, it's got these two really significant benefits, and I think for me, felt and feel a sense of urgency around like making these things happen as quickly as they can. And I think also as a young person, maybe trying to like not wait for other people, older people to make things happen like for me or around me. So I think like this felt like an instance where that was uniquely possible. And yeah, so I guess that's, yeah, some thoughts about why me. I think I also like uniquely was positioned after high school to like get to decide what I wanted to spend my time doing. You know, so I got to have that decision-making power of like identifying this as something that I wanted to have as a priority. And I also think that we are in a time where people are prioritizing this more, and compost in particular is like on people's minds and becoming a thing that people are starting to practice more. And so I think there's a lot of unique things about like this moment right now, that make this possible when it wouldn't have been, you know, 10 years ago or whatever.
Even just the work aspect of it, of like I'm with my friends and people that we can really like just be ourselves and talk really plainly. I think also just personally it's something that I can plug into and be a part of and feel like I'm doing something. And so that's really nice than feeling like there's nothing I could do about climate change or my community